on video here?
So I am too. This is just
Okay.
a software limitation that I can only send my video output to one source or one destination rather.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and so OBS gets that. So welcome to Top Deck Heroes, everybody. I'm here with your reigning world champion Tim Keefe and none of our other hosts. Say hi. We're going to talk about, that's what I can't read up on the screen right now. We're going to talk about the Omaha PTC results, kind of some comments on the meta from other players who have formed the Peanut Gallery on Facebook, and then we're going to get into some Mortal Kombat spoilers because no one has really talked to them yet, and that's there's a ton of cards out there right now that have gone out in the big card program and otherwise. And there's a lot of it's shaping up, I think, to be a high impact set, just like Cowboy Bebop. I think anyone could agree to that. So let's dive right in. We had Mad Pro in first place for the second time this season.
Yep.
And let's get him on the screen here. So this is a Coffee Samba Ailurophobia Technical Sphere combo deck. And also Punch and Judy. So at this point, if you don't know what that does, you should pay better attention. And yeah, Tim, do you want to just give a do we even want to give a rundown of this deck? I think it's
a little bit. Like, this is the deck that finished 4th at Worlds at 1 Atlanta PTC. If you've been following things, you know basically what this does. It looks like the Two Fists is a new main deck addition. It looks like probably just wanted to be more flexible. But other than that,
really like Two Fists in this deck. I've played it a little bit. Shutting down your opponent's pieces is awesome. Like Celestial Being can be a headache, and damage resets. Plus, actually, so the best thing though is just plays defense. It's forgotten. Plus, it takes out their best offensive piece. I love that card. And it's rotating.
Yeah, I think the one thing to people who look at this list and sort of hear about the deck always just hear about Punch and Judy and Cats and the big one-shot finisher. It stuns you out with ISSP and Coffee Samba, and then it just tries to dump a giant Cats on you. As we saw at Worlds with the Stoneman, this deck can work hard and win anyway, even if you somehow take the combo away. Even if I've got Cool and Focused, you can still just say, all right, I'll, put a couple Punch and Judies on a couple different attacks. I will copy Cats with Technical Sphere, and even if I don't boost it, that's a 6 mid 14. And it's still got a boat ton of stun, and it can still just sort of get there without necessarily going wombo combo on you. And a lot of people who sort of build their decks trying to keep this in mind don't really respect that and think that, I might be able to just defend against this thing forever if I have the right tools. And maybe you can build a deck that does that, but it's very not trivial.
Yeah, and I think that it's really easy to kind of pick up this deck and play it poorly, and then have your friends say, "Oh yeah, I crushed that deck" or whatever. And I think there are decks that can give this deck a real hard time.
Yeah, definitely.
I think there's even several of them in this tournament, but the pairings broke Keenan's way, and I mean, it's really, really hard to have a 100% matchup against a deck this good, right?
Yeah.
You can always just fail your checks on your build turns, or have them draw the straight hot fire. So yeah, let's hop down to I think probably the hero of the weekend in a lot of people's books. This is Jeremy Ray playing. Talk to this deck, Tim, while I play the producer role and pull up the characters.
Yep. So this is Runica. One of the things that people sort of looking through. I know. I did this when we were doing that tier list voting thing. I imagine most people sort of thumbed through the characters. At some point, noticed that she can really make use of Eda 9 support. But it kind of always just seemed like a cute trick and not really a real thing. And Jeremy Ray believed in it, and he has some experience playing with these cards. He was playing Eda 9 in Indy, and he put this together, and he finished second with it. So the big thing here is that you can double up Runica on top of Stink Gas and sort of double deny your opponent's foundations. And if you go first, you can really just stay on top of them and vastly outbuild them over the course of the game. going second is a little bit harder. That's why he had the Ed9 in there to try to shore up some going second matchups. Sounded like he'd rather do something else with, in terms of trying to find a way to do that.
Yeah, I understand that the sideboard plan is pretty much entirely going second against specifically Spike 1.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to. It's really virtually impossible to tempo out that character because of his damage reduction and his ability to reduce speed. Just your attacks will, even if you have a really great draw where you put a lot of his cards back on top of his deck, he's a 7 hand size, he's super durable, and he's still going to be able to block things. And it's not going to work out for him.
I think it's worth pointing out that Dimitri Wondot is banned, and although Runika's not as tanky, she still has a very, very similar ability, and that ability is still really good. And especially in this tournament, looks like there was a lot of people sort of skewing towards being a little bit more defensive. If you're relying on that refusing to let go or some other defensive piece to sort of bail you out of some things, Runika just takes them away.
Yeah, and then the damage output on this deck can be very, very serious with Runika's 4+ and stacking up just on top of the Ed9 support. Can really land a knockout really quickly. So if you want to, the hero of this weekend. I think actually another really good storyline. It comes in our third place deck, Asimov and Katarina. So at Worlds, this deck was actually the demon that defeated Keaton Meadows, who was up to that point, I believe, 9-0 undefeated in matches.
Yeah, he was a lot in 0.
Yeah, literally first place Swiss champ, undefeated, untied, unstoppable, and the ANK Red Eye Capsule, big, mostly low attacks with stun and lots of speed, put him away in the top 4. Actually, yeah, it's the same seed, practically the same seeding. I'm not sure if it was. It was top 16 seeds, so I'm sure they weren't like whatever 8th and 3rd after Swiss or something, or 7th and 3rd. I'm not sure, but the Swiss. Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, talk to me about this deck a little bit. I think you're pretty familiar at this point.
Yeah, I saw a lot of this deck. So yeah, Asimov and Katarina. I've talked about this on a show before. The thing that they have that people don't always respect as much as they should is, when the game goes late, their damage boost, they get a free plus, not free, commit foundation, but they ready it.
Cheap, yeah.
+6, +7, +10, or something on all of their attacks. And there are some very successful players that made a living back in some older formats playing decks like that when they were easier to put together. Nowadays, you can't just sort of put the right foundations in your deck and just have that on command. But Asimov and Katarina can still do it. And, so if you can get the game to that sort of later state, then, when all of your attacks are dealing 10, 15 plus damage, look, your opponent's not always going to be able to perfect block everything. Like at some point, they're going to die.
Yeah, for sure. And with attacks like Power Stone too. Yeah. 10, 15 is not the upper limit of this card. This can easily come in for an entire life total in one hit once the game is dragged on for a little bit. And I think that what's really great about this strategy is just the size of these attacks at the baseline. If you start slacking off on like turn 2 or 3, because of Red Eye Capsule, this deck can put together pretty good attack strings, even with like mediocre control checks. With Asimov Kennedy's ready ability, really. Like that ability has a lot of leverage even in the early game if you're going to be caught sleeping on blocks.
Readying things on offense helps you pass checks. On defense, it's kind of like attacking into Spike 1. All of your attacks are going to get minus some speed. They're readying foundations.
Defensive Red Eye Capsule.
It can be just as hard. Obviously, it's one less card in the hand, but I've got Humanity Sentries +1 card. Homemade Explosives is +1 card. They've got some card draw on their attacks.
Yeah, no, Humanity Sentry is one card that kind of blew me away the first time I saw it in this deck because it's really perfect. It just sits, like you play it on 1 and it sits in your staging area ready to block something. And Asimov and Katarina really turn into a +1 high block from your stage. I think do you think it's worth noting or worth is it worth comment, or is it just kind of a random coincidence that seeds second and third place after this tournament were both order decks? 4 Fei, 3 and 4 prepare to fight. 4
Yeah,
Arthas.
not a whole lot else in common. They do fairly different order decks.
That's true. Yeah.
Obviously, neither one's. They can both be aggressive in different ways. Runica with the foundation choking, and Asmov and Katarina can just like make some quick, fairly large power stones pretty quickly, as Keenan found out the hard way.
Both four hyperbomb in both of them. I actually didn't realize that until just now.
Oh yeah, that's not even an ally for Runica, but it's still hyperbomb.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to say. Right now is sort of a bebop heavy meta being what it is. It's hard to rank symbols separately from characters right now.
I think that's certainly true to an extent. Like definitely, I think that it's certainly not a coincidence that there are 7 prepare to fights in 8 possible slots right here. Although I mean, obviously, doesn't help too much against Mad Perot putting all the speed and stun in the world on things.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really well positioned card in the broader format. And although looking at this top 8, maybe not actually the best against the top 8.
Yeah, the Spike 2s did not make it, and I don't know who was playing it or what their decks looked like, so can't really say a whole lot about it.
Yeah, that would be the place where your expertise would be most appreciated. So to scroll down a little further here, we've got our second entry non-bebop character in this top 8, which is a very refreshing change. But we've got an Athena, who was, I know, one of my picks for diversity battle, top tier character, going to be widely played going into Worlds, and no one actually registered her there. But this is a good wall deck, I think, of the highest order. So really kind of taking advantage of the synergy between the White House and Athena, and then using kind of the new tools that it's gotten in Bebop and in Platinum with Woodman's Leaf Shield and Overly Dramatic and cards like that to just put a huge stage here in play and figure out. I think the way you put it in the pre-show was this will heal you with eventually.
Yes. There's no sort of clear, well set plan for how this thing's actually going to win, but your Athena, we call her an effective 8-hand size already, right? She starts with 7, she gets the foundation for free. You get a White House out, you're a 9-hand size, and if you get the dream and you alpha male that watching a nightmare and you're staging her, now you're a 10-hand size.
Watch or just draw it, just put it in play. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's, with a deck that's, I think this actually isn't even quite as much of a watching a nightmare deck as I'm used to. I think it's pretty, like, there's a lot of 3-ofs and several 4-ofs in this deck. I guess some of these do destroy themselves or flip themselves. Like Wave of True Warrior, it's not too hard to get that out of the way if you want to go to 10-hand size.
In any event, right? It's usually going to be, in a long game, it's usually going to be a 9-hand size, and sometimes it's going to be a 10-hand size. And like when you're a 10-hand size, you can craft whatever you want. This thing probably had kill turns that was like Leaf Shield Battery, Leaf Shield, Rolling Cutter, Missile Launcher, whatever. I have a million cards in my hand. I have all these foundations.
I'm playing cards on.
They're hyper screwed.
I'm playing cards on 10 difficulty and hard checking them without committing face-up foundations.
I'm not. I'll have to watch the deck profile. I don't really understand Blaze Whip. I'm not very high on that card. I don't know what it's doing here.
Yeah,
but otherwise,
it's a little surprising.
Its Spreadgeo feels kind of like overkill. But a lot of people like that card. Otherwise,
it's a great bridge in the early game, I think.
Beefy attack lineup.
But a lot of
launchers and Cutter and Leaf Shield.
Yeah. Here's a deck that Prepared Fight actually helps a lot against, I think, because I think that the way to kind of stay alive against this deck is to surprise him with how much kind of damage he actually has to deal. Because he does, if he sculpts for 2 years, yeah, sure, he can have the 7 attack and drop all 3 missile launchers on your brain or whatever. But if he's not getting the right draws, it can take him a long time to do that, and he might try to go for it early and then get punished by a Prepared Fight kicking his multiple copy or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, he lost. I think he lost 2-0 to the Runica. So, certainly, sort of this is going back a little far, but sort of like a Vespera-like effect where a lot of Vespera decks were really good at defending and kind of iffy on killing you, and some defensive decks could actually out-defend her and take advantage of that. That might have been sort of what happened here. Order probably has the tools to, stave off attacks with this sort of lineup.
Yeah, and being able to keep the White House off the board, or an alpha male off the board with Runika's response certainly helps.
Yes. Yeah, this definitely falls in the category of wants to have specific pieces in their staging area, and Runika's just going to eat that up.
So I think we wanted to keep a somewhat shorter show tonight. Let's go through turbo mode on these last 4 decks, and we can get into some kind of broad meta talk. So preview, we're going to talk. Garrett Brett had some interesting ideas about what decks people should be playing in this event. I think I wanted to touch on that because I think it's an interesting conversation. And then we can get into spoilers. So in 5th place, let's pull up the character. We have a Spike 1 deck. This is very similar, possibly virtually identical to a top placing finisher in teams. Did it actually win? I'm forgetting.
Yeah. This on the Chris Nixon's team won Worlds. This deck was on the team. One of his teammates was playing it. He imported it for this PTC. Made a couple tweaks, but it's the same concept. I know Garrett really likes this deck. You have Napalm Bomb and homing missiles, sort of adding on to the straight burn strategy of Vengeance of the Fallen Angel.
Yeah. This really, actually, now that I think about Napalm Bomb with a clear head about what it does in Spike, this is actually completely nuts to me, because this is a 6-speed low stun 2 for 6 damage that also can chip damage you for burn.
Yes.
Jesus.
So yeah, the whole concept here is, the strongest thing about Spike 1 is he has this very uninteractive, mostly uninteractive 6 damage burn attack in Vengeance of the Fallen Angel. And if part of your game plan is to get this sort of unstoppable damage, why not make it more of your game plan and play Napalm Bomb and homing missiles and a couple bangs are main. That's kind of normal. Got the 4 hunt for spiders and dragons. And swimming birds in there because it's great, but otherwise this deck just wants to go, straight to your dome without a whole lot you can do about it. And you kind of just have to let him blow stuff up with homing missiles.
Yeah, and I really like putting these speedy attacks with stun on off zones.
Yeah.
And if you put your shields down a little bit and I get to tag you with a swimming bird on 2 or 3,
right.
Now the burn is going to finish you off no matter what.
Yeah.
So slightly more aggressive take. It's pretty cool. Let's scroll down because I put the order. Aaron Cook's Fey deck. If you were watching Worlds again, you might understand what's going on here. This is a Graven Castle Ruins deck, first and foremost. And it's a super duper good wall until it hits the kill with multiple Blackhawk Fangs.
Yep. Looks like he added the second assassination attempt.
Oh, wow.
So he wants to go in deeper on the really degenerate combo. He cut Phantom Driver, switched up some foundations. Basically sort of seemed to focus the deck a little bit more, making sure it could achieve its combo kill.
Wow, that's crazy to me because 2 assassination attempts just to make sure it always has one of the discard pile for Graven Castle Ruins. Can't Faye just pay the momentum for you? But okay, cool. A nice iteration there. Another kind of iteration deck, Les Hubbard's Eda 9 deck. Talk to me about that one.
Yeah, so he topped with this in Atlanta. He was sort of the hero that was slaying the Spike 1s at the top tables. If you remember, that was the event where there were like 4 Spike 1s diversified, and there were 5 of them in the top 6 going into the last round or something. And Les was just up there executing spikes at the top table. Since then, it looks like he's made it bigger. I think he was doing some dual symboling in Atlanta, and it looks like that's gone.
Yeah, I remember Conrad Handed was in this deck, and it is out here now.
Yeah, Digital Manipulation's main now. Mayfa's Assault is main now. So, it's been a big, long gap. I don't know. It doesn't look like he was taking a ton of... He might have taken some cues from Jeremy's indie list, but probably not many because it's still 70 cards.
Yeah, I think
it's kind of a bit of a lower attack count. Just sort of doesn't mind if it takes a few turns to get to its kill instead of sort of being in an all-in aggro deck.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of kind of mid-rangey tools in here that Jeremy absolutely did not have. Securing His Destiny is a great little trump, but really I'm thinking of like Radical Edward, Mushroom Experimentation, Hacker Extraordinaire, Funky Fatal Armor Expert. All these are great ways to kind of grind out some card advantage, and Mayfield's Assault is another great piece of that. And you can kind of play a two-way game where you're either kind of not drawing on people or just kind of chip-shotting them and getting up on cards and playing really good defense with that.
Yeah, I remember seeing Toughest Bricks in Atlanta. He likes that card in here. He's got a lot of committal. I like Radical Edward. It handles more than people maybe think at first glance. So you just commit it and get rid of Swordfishes.
Yeah.
Fusing to Let Goes. There's lots of stuff like that. There's even foundations randomly have ally on them now.
Yep. And the odd, I think there's a couple weapons.
Yeah.
Or actually cards with Breaker even is just fine. All right, and lastly, we have another...
Yeah.
Okay, I was about to call him another non-Bebop hero. And maybe in his heart of hearts he is. Maybe this is a strategic sideboard option, but really we have a Punch and Judy Jet deck that has Metal Man in front of it for game one.
Yes. Yeah. So this was actually my other Swiss loss at Worlds, aside from getting executed by Bubble Man on stream. And at Worlds, this was a straight Metal Man deck. I didn't see Jet at all. I believe the lineup was substantially different, but it looks like he took some cues from Barrett's deck. It's very similar. It's got the Crash Slams in. It's got 4 Black Dogs aims. It's running Relentless Pursuit.
Actually, yeah. So this is cool. So Barrett's jet deck. Let me pull up the card that's new to me here. It was playing Crash Slam and Armed Vengeance. Really kind of offbeat cards in there in order to enable this dual symbol. Actually, it was an Earth deck first and foremost to play 1,000 duels and some strongest style as well. There's even more ways to mill itself. So everything had Earth. And here we have a character who doesn't have Earth, but still playing the same attack string.
Right.
For completely different reasons now. Because Crash Slam is a virtual, it's like, you can call it a virtual unblockable, because it's always going to go to your staging with Metal Man. And then Armed Vengeance, also, if it's fully blocked and you comboed it, face down immediately. So this can be, if you can pass those checks, this does a ton of damage.
Yeah. So those pieces definitely work well on both characters. I sort of have my doubts about Black Dog's aim. I don't know what other stun options he has on fire. I don't know. It doesn't really seem like a fit for Metal Man unless he's really hunting for low blocks or something. Same kind of goes for Relentless Pursuit. Those are both sort of, I want Jet to give these keywords +2 cards, and that's sort of what makes me think he was sideboarding into Jet every match here, probably.
Yeah, those feel really funny to me if the game plan is to play Metal Man. Like, why do we want 3-speed mid attacks in our deck?
Right, exactly. So I would assume he's going into Jet every match, given that. Because otherwise, if this is a Metal Man deck first, then that lineup's different, and I believe it was at Worlds for that reason.
But I'm glad I gave this a shot, because I thought this was just a lame Jet deck, and I didn't realize sort of the Armed Vengeance place. That's pretty sweet. That's like
Armed Vengeance Metal Man is pretty cool, and I'm a little sad that he didn't sort of stay all in on that and really work on that, and he sort of shifted to this sort of half Jet deck plan.
Yeah, I will say, if you've learned your lesson about how to play Spike 2 against decks like this deck probably has a 0% matchup against Spike 2 because he'll never get face on foundations.
Yeah, no, I was definitely doing that.
Actually, yeah, you don't need to hustle this.
The deck was different.
Yeah.
There was one point where I'd Swordfish and given him momentum, and because he was so used to being Metal Man and never having momentum, he actually forgot to activate missile launchers enhances. So he kind of punted, but I bricked in. Yeah, I bricked in my 40% attack deck. Happens sometimes. Happens in finals.
I guess I should say, rather than it's unlosable, it's that it can be very frustrating.
It's very annoying, yeah. But if you still have gigantic attacks and you block well, that. Like I said, at least for my Spike 2, I don't know about the other ones, but generally it has the toughest time with decks that can sort of defend a little bit and also punch really hard.
Yeah, which I think these VAR decks certainly are capable of doing that.
Yes.
So I think the second topic we want to touch on, which I think we can touch on really quickly now, because I think I like what you had to say about this, was so Garrett Brett kind of replied to Tim Keefe winning this tournament. Keenan Meadows. I get my world champions mixed up. So Keenan won the Atlanta Pro Tour earlier this year. He had an incredible run at Worlds with 9 consecutive wins, which is outrageous. It's really hard to win 9 matches in a row. It's two. It's like 500 to 1 if it's coin flips. And so he played effectively the same deck with small tweaks. He moved Revokes into the deck after. So 2 cards from Worlds or 2 cards between all of these? Okay. And wait, did he not have a sideboard?
There's a sideboard.
There must be a sideboard.
I think some of the sideboard stuff shifted around too, but it was mostly
okay, there must be a sideboard. I did pick it up from the Facebook post. So kind of the reply was that, so what Garrett Brett said was that you shouldn't play the same deck all these times and just keep taking everyone's lunch money. You should be using these PTC events as places to kind of test your things in a broader context than you get at home, to explore new ideas, kind of to show off all of the beauty that lies within the game of UFS. I think that's like more poetic than what he was actually saying. But that's kind of what he was getting at. That's what I took away from it. And what do you think about that? What's that? As a many times world champion who beat me up to take my lunch money with the deck you ended up playing at Worlds?
So in my case, because I don't have locals and I don't get to, I'm on Octagon a little bit more now, but I don't get to really test that much. I end up using PTCs as sort of nationals and worlds testing grounds. Yeah, I want to at least get to, I think both of the past 2 years, I took the deck that I ran at Worlds to 2 events. In both cases, missing top cuts in Atlanta and then doing well at the St. Louis 1K, and then obviously in Guelph. And obviously 2 events has been a pretty good number for me. It's panned out both times. The first event sort of just making sure the deck is sort of baseline viable. And then the second event, trying some iterations. In Pharaoh Man's case, the deck got better on my second try. In Spike's case, the deck got a lot worse. So my Worlds deck was closer to Guelph than it was to Atlanta. But then, yeah, after 2 events, I felt pretty good about it. I came up to Rochester to test with you guys, and I just played my team's deck the whole time because I was like, I'm pretty happy with where Spike 2 is right now. So, I think overall, in terms of what you play in a PTC, it depends on what your goals are. I was trying to test for the next Nationals or Worlds. Some people, are from locally and don't, necessarily have the income to get on planes all the time, and they really want the plane tickets, so they're going to play whatever their best thing is. Some people are showing up to the event just to hang out with UFS people and have a good time, and they don't, I didn't say, like, I didn't bother testing for this event. I'm just going to play this deck that's in my box that I know is good, and I'll just play it. Or maybe you just really like playing the deck that you've played a lot.
I know that's where I've been at a few times. Last year I got a little bit of grief for playing Psyche so much, but I really loved that deck.
Yeah.
It helped that it would give me winning lines in most of my games, but that certainly doesn't hurt. But it was very, very enjoyable just going through each of the fine little mechanics. Yeah, I think that's a great point of view on it. That it's really about what your goals are, and so I think that everyone's saying Jeremy Ray is the hero of this tournament, and I have to imagine that was part of his goal when he brought Runica to this.
Like he came here wanting to show off like this deck that he thought was pretty good, and sort of put it on a map and show what you can do in a format that people think is pretty stale.
Yeah,
and I know. Winning was sort of, it'd be nice, right? Because it furthered the goal of putting this deck on the map, but not really super necessary.
Yeah, it really helps his storyline too, that he's just the end boss. When he played one of the most innovative decks of modern times, Mature 59 got second place. That deck's broken, and he still got second place. Like it's just fate.
Yeah, and I know I imagine from Garrett's perspective, Garrett only nominally cares about winning cardboard events at this point. He doesn't even if he really wanted to win Worlds, he would have been playing Spike 1, but he wanted to play this wacky Sakura deck that he just wanted to see if he could top cuts and make a statement with.
Yeah. That deck of all the decks in the weekend, that deck was sending a message the strongest. It's not about winning or losing. Sometimes it's about sending a message.
Yeah. And he enjoys playing that deck more than I'm sure he would enjoy playing Spike 1. And so you can imagine that's his approach to cardboard events. You can imagine how he thinks about PTCs, right?
Yeah.
He goes to a PTC. He's almost certainly going to be playing some sort of wacky nonsense that he just wants to send a message to people who are stuck in their deck building that, like, hey, this crazy thing can work. Why are you still playing like that same aggro deck all the time?
Yeah. All right, great. You want to talk about some spoilers?
Yeah.
All right,
You've got a lot of
swap over. Where would you like to start? So I have Scorpion on the screen right now. We can go wherever you want in this whole batch. Although I only have the left and right arrow keys without screwing up.
Yeah, we might as well go in order.
All right.
While we've got our arrow keys.
So Scorpion is a 628 character. He's got Death Evil Fire, great symbol spread, classic.
Yep.
And he kills himself, and he kills you too. So he has 3 enhances, which none of which have a material cost. They only cost vitality or have a condition on them. For 2 vitality, you can make your opponent lose 2 vitality if they block. For 1 vitality, you can up the speed. Basically do spike 1's enhance of 2 speed, up or down. And then once you're in desperation, your desperation attacks get +6 damage. So run us through this card real quick, Tim.
Yeah, so it would appear that, at least by design, Scorpion's game plan is pretty straightforward here, right? You're gonna, early on in the game, you're gonna be making sure you're doing some amount of damage to your opponent. And you have -2 speed to help you defend what's going to become an increasingly fragile life total. And then by the time your life total is so low that you're worried about playing the first 2 abilities, you just start giving everything 1,000,000 damage instead, which we kind of talked about a little bit with Asimov and Katarina. Like, at some point, some of those are going to get through and kill people.
Absolutely.
So, aggressively minded guy, has a little bit of defense, has some inevitability. That's a pretty good formula for success. And, it's not really surprising that people sort of think of Napalm Man when they look at this guy with the automatic 2 burn.
Yeah, I think that the Napalm Man comparison is really interesting, and I think that's if you join the UFS Discord, Shannon Discard players, there's a link on Reddit. It's a great community, and we have very spirited discussions about cards. And there was kind of a lot of sky is falling feeling about Scorpion because of the similarities to Napalm Man, I think. And I'm just not buying it. I think that the sort of his if you look at the kind of the best case, medium case, worst case analysis, Scorpion's best case doesn't actually do anything until he's in desperation. His attacks are harder to block, and they punish you for blocking. But if you're like tapped out with no hand, he doesn't do anything unless he's in desperation. Where Napalm Man, his 2 damage adds up regardless of what's going on. So you're forced to play tight to cling to every life point, because you'll get burned out so much faster. Where against Scorpion, your life total is going down regardless of what you do, but it's not going down faster if you loosen up and don't play defense until he's in desperation. At which point, you might be stuck between a rock and a hard place. But I think Scorpion leaves a lot of control in your opponent's hands, and then he has to very carefully manage his own life total, which I think is going to be a very difficult line to walk.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly going to be good, and people are certainly going to have some frustrating matches with him. In particular, like, I'm just trying to imagine if you're going first and you think you can get some damage on him, how much do you really want to poke him? Because if you put him if you play an attack that's going to put him at 20, he can play that first E for nothing.
Yep.
And then on his second attack, he's in +6 damage land on his next turn.
You
can imagine most Scorpion decks are going to be playing a fairly low curve, somewhat higher attack count kind of deal.
Yeah, definitely the kind of the nut draws get kind of terrifying if we start putting Coffee Samba. That draws an attack, greater than 50% of the time in our decks. But yeah, Scorpion's definitely a character to look out for, and he is one of the starter characters. So I'm excited to see what happens there, especially with let's see if we have From Hell next. Yeah. So if this is the kind of attack he's going to have access to, we're going to be in for a good time. So this guy is a 6 difficulty, 3 high for 6, 3 check plus 2 high block, pretty medium stat wise. Not fantastic, but then it's got 4 keyword abilities: Charge Fury, Desperation 4, and EX3. So it's a 4 difficulty attack. This is great, right? Like 3 high for 6 is great rate.
Yeah.
But if you don't block it, your opponent gets to choose one of your foundations and kill it, put it in your discard pile, and burn you for X additional damage, where X is the control of the foundation. So 5 or 4, like at least 4, pretty much.
Yeah.
And often
sometimes 6.
Yeah, sometimes absolutely possible to be 6.
A lot of people like Fallen Master.
Fallen Master, Police Connections. There's a lot of good 6 checks around actually these days.
Yeah.
I love No Surprises, and if those cards can become liabilities, but this does an obscene amount of damage, and it's not gated in any way as long as you can pass that 6 check. Cards like this might have a momentum cost a lot of times, or they might have 2 checks. This is just high difficulty, somewhat low speed, and a conditional on dealing damage, or conditional on being not blocked. So
yeah, it's it's definitely a card you're going to have to, if you're building your deck, you're going to want to put some thought into whether or not you can make this work or not. Obviously, Grant Padley comes to mind. Decks that can generate momentum. Even anything that, if you're playing Not Over Yet in your deck, or you have some way to sort of fiddle around with the ordering of your attacks so you don't have to play this first. If you can pass this as your 3rd attack and threaten that,
good lord,
your opponent has to be mortified about giving up their last block.
I didn't even think about this card in this much depth either. Really, what's coming to mind now is this is basically just another Ilerophobia. This is another attack that deals single-handedly absurd amounts of damage on very short conditions. And this one, in exchange for not quite having the same ceiling, gets EX3 and no gate whatsoever to come in for 10 plus.
I mean, if you got a fire deck that has other uses for momentum that you're playing Hammerhead Assault.
That card's amazing.
Hammerhead Assault into From Hell and some other speed or damage, some other speed bonus or some stun or whatever. You're gonna chunk a lot of life.
It's From Hell and straight back to Hell, really, with this card. So let's hop to the next one. We got Fade. This is.
I'm upset the Molina preview is not an attack and it's not a flash attack. Sure, the flash attacks are coming.
It does interact with your opponent's flash attacks, which is nice.
Yes.
So this is a action card that really is very near and dear to my heart. Because this is Paul Damajigan's effect. If your opponent's attacking you and they play a card, or if they're even playing an action card or whatever, after they play it, they just put it back in their hand, and it doesn't do anything. So you're hopefully that your opponent's playing some cards that have a lot of progressive difficulty attached to them, or you've defended yourself by kind of reducing their resources, and then you're forcing them to recheck for their card, and that if they pass like a 6 or 7 check, they can make that eminently failable.
If your opponent's trying to dunk you with a 3rd attack From Hell, just fade that thing away.
Yep, or you're Not Over Yet card, or your first form actions like self-destruct get completely dunked on here, and it's got a 0 high block. What's kind of really exciting with this card is it's great against Coffee Samba, because it can get itself out of your hand kind of unconditionally, and if you're in desperation, now it gives you the ability to remove it on a 0 difficulty action because it has desperation 0, and give your next check +3, so make it much more possible to fully block some of those attacks deep into your card pool while you're stunned out.
It's a useful utility card. I think being an action card that kind of sits in your hand, it's going to be hard to fit into 6 hand size. I'd be surprised not to see a copy or 2 in 7 hand size, if not main deck, then at least in sideboard. There's certainly going to be some subsets of decks that's really good against. At worst, you can bring it in when you want a +0 high block, which is a lot. It's really good against. It's particularly good against the Spike 2 decks that are running 4 copies of M3C, making them replay that. They'll lose any difficulty they got shaved off by Dagger Strike. You can basically make M3C go away for a turn usually with this, or just block and ace maneuvers with your +0 high. So it's probably especially good against Spike 2.
Yep, and it occurred to me just now that there are other 3 difficulty 4 control actions that are considered staples of the metagame, but this doesn't share symbols with Bang at all. So
yep, it shares 2 with Revoke. If you're a 6-hand size and you're going to play an action, you're probably going to play Revoke before you play this. But if you're 7-hand size, you can play both.
Speaking of Bang, actually, mentioning that just reminded me, there's a curious interaction here with action cards that move zones as part of their costs. So effectively, the card is not in the transitional zone after it resolves in that case, and during the response window to playing it, it is nowhere to be added back to their hand.
I think it still goes back to that. I would consider that to be under some dispute.
So
I don't know if we've gotten an official ruling on it.
Ask a judge, folks. All right, next up. So we've got Brutality next. Do you think they like the number 3? Do you know your Mortal Kombat lore? Why 3 and Brutality go together?
I don't know if there's anything Mortal Kombat related, but we know that Jasco likes to do gimmicks like this. They were very proud of Yoga Inferno having every number from 1 to 8 on it or something. And here we card a card that has the number 3 on it as about as many times as you could possibly put the number 3 on a card.
Although it doesn't
have like multiple 3, I guess.
Also, its collector's number doesn't have any 3s in it at all.
Oh wow, that's a major oversight.
Major pun.
Yeah.
But so yeah, this is a 3 difficulty, 3 control, 3 mid for 3 attack. It's got a breaker 3 block in exchange for its +3 mid. So +3 mid breaker 3 is not something every symbol has had access to. I think that if you wanted to, we've seen Strongest Style get a little bit of play, and in my book that card is mostly just breaker 3. So that's potentially something interesting. But the meat of this card. Go ahead.
Yeah. Speaking of decks playing 3-speed mids, we could be in a world where there's 1 Brutality in like every deck, and oh look, they played Relentless Pursuit. Well, okay, I'll end their turn now.
Yeah, just to punish the people who are playing slow setup attacks.
Yeah, and we'll see another one of those kinds of attacks later. And here, you don't have to full block either, right? There's lots of Hammerhead Assault's a 3-speed setup attack. There's a few attacks like that. It looks like we're going to have in Mortal Kombat that are sort of slow setup attacks. And a lot of decks, if they don't have some otherwise specific need, they might just put 1 Brutality over the top. This stands out the most as a Spike 1 card.
Yep.
Much to some people's chagrin.
Yeah. It fits Spike 1 in a lot of ways. As we were talking about the burnout plan earlier, chipping your opponent down to 3 is eminently doable, and then this guarantees the last couple hits. But also the +3 block is greatly discounted in Spike. He has an excellent speed reduction ability, and it makes it very easy to just put these breaker 3s out there whenever you want.
Yep.
So let's go to the next card. Leading a team. So this is a new spoiler. If you were keeping up this weekend, you may not have seen this one yet because this was kind of put out there. This was sent out to one of the stores as one of the giant card promotion, but I believe they didn't put it up of their own accord. Jasco kind of said, "Hey, here are the cards we sent out." This is it. This is Jackie Sport. It's a nice 1/5 spam. Yeah. I don't know what these like 2nd generation Mortal Kombat characters look like. I know Katana, I know Sonya Blade, I know them, but I haven't played MK10. I haven't played MK6. So it's a nice spam though. It's got a 2 high block, 1/5 stats. It's got supporting her character ability, gives your opponent's block buffers +1 while it's in your card pool. So just kind of +1 speed, and if you get in some weird situations where you're very flooded on foundations or very kind of middle late game, or if you have the ability to pass a lot of control checks, you might just play this out of your hand first to screw up their block. But I think the exciting part of this really is that it's a spam foundation with this Desperation R Destroy. After opponent's combat phase begins, seal one of their assets or foundations.
Yeah, there's like a lot of little things going on in this card.
Yeah.
Remember I said a lot of people like Fallen Master, and some people play it for the 6 check. A lot of them are just playing because it's a spam foundation +2 high block and an ability that does more than nothing.
Yeah.
And this card
more than nothing is a good way to put it. Yeah.
Spam foundation +2 high block does a little bit more than nothing. If you have reversals in your deck, this is great for that. You make your reversal a little bit faster with your spam foundation block. And yeah, that Desperation R, it means you have to sort of start your opponent's turn in Desperation, which may or may not happen super often.
It may or may not be. It's not a desirable place to be.
Yeah. But when it does, against some decks, that's going to really matter. You know, you can shut off a Finding What Was Lost. You can shut off.
That was the card I was just thinking of. Robot Masters can be a big piece, or Thrill of Battle.
Masters, Sharpshooter, which we'll see later, is a pretty big piece. Or on the flip side, you can shut off their answers to your answers, right? You shut off Overly Dramatic and not have to care about that thing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that this is only on your opponent's turn, but you can only ask for so much flexibility out of your spam that does solid three things.
Your card that that takes a slot that people were happily playing commit for -1 damage on. So.
All right. How about Crawler? This is a card with some exciting text on it. And also I believe our first Mortal Kombat K of the day of the preview season. Well, not first, but first one in this particular sequence we're going through. But it's a 5 difficulty, 3 control, 4 low for 4, so not amazing stats. But it's an ally slam, which is cool. While it's in your card pool, breaker abilities cannot be played, which is cool. We've seen some big breaker numbers, especially from Jet. 4+, your next check to play card gets +1, so that's a fine little trinket text. It kind of effectively turns this into a 4 difficulty, 4 low for 4, which isn't blowing anyone away, but it's fine. It's also a common, so how much can you ask for? But then Deadlock Enhance. Your attacks with printed 4 damage do not count to progressive difficulty for the rest of this turn. Tim, you've played against Playful Slice, right? Is there anything even resembling this ability in our recent UFS history? Just turn off progressive difficulty for everything I do. It's kind of like Scorch Wheel, actually. Only for all of your shit.
Steel Res, Zing.
Yeah.
Nothing like you have to go back pretty far to get. Obviously Ivy had a card like that was much less exciting than Playful Slice.
Yeah.
The abilities aren't these sorts of abilities aren't guaranteed hits, but there have definitely been points in this game where they have been big hits.
Yeah, it's really the Wheel and Steel deck, I think. Yeah, the Steel Resurrection kind of Scorch Wheel, where half of its attacks had abilities that did this to themselves, and then kind of relied on you to get into the string. I'm really excited to see what Devora has to kind of put together some big attack strings. Because if she's just trying to draw step this stuff, it's not going to work. But
it's important. It's sort of critically important to note that that's a Deadlock E, though.
Yes.
That's sort of the really big thing here, because the decks that we're talking about wanted to do this stuff on turn 2, turn 3.
Yeah.
And Crawler cannot ever do that for you.
Yeah, I think this kind of affects really, in a Deadlock situation, if you both have 10 foundations, if your opponent has 11, you have 10 foundations. How often is your deck that's all 4 printed damage moves? How often is it actually going to need this if it's not got somewhat broken card draw ability?
Draw engine, probably, or maybe all of your foundations have useful commit effects.
Yeah. Just because otherwise, it's like, how much is this really saving you? If you have 4 attacks in your hand, it's saving you a total of 6 difficulty. That's fine. But I remember when you
have 10 foundations.
Yeah, exactly. When the Fey cards were getting kicked around, one of them has Deadlock E, your next attack gets +5 to its control check. People laughed at that. People thought that was completely worth this.
Yeah, and in practice it's been a little bit not so worthless, but that's also in decks that are playing like the Fey sequence where all of your attacks are 5 difficulty.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different. If you're playing like 4 damage attack deck, you probably have a mix of 4s and 3s besides Crawler. This card reminds me of Showoken, actually.
Okay.
In that it's sort of understated, but it has a static on it. In Showoken's case, it's an R that can really help you against some decks.
Yeah.
It's got the +0 low block. I mean, if you're worried about Jet, here's your +0 low block for the launcher. Here's your turn off his breakers.
Yeah, now that you just mentioned like the idea of a hoser for Jet, I start seeing how this card makes sense because it blocks missile launcher, it blocks ISP grapple.
Similar to Showoken, if you want to like main deck 4 copies of this with a straight face, when you work it out, it's really sort of a narrow list of decks that can do that, and Devore is probably one of them. And Devore, we assume, will prove to be better than Sakura was. But all the same, I think people are going to get really excited when they read this card, and then when they build a deck, this might be on the table, and then it gets cut. And this will happen a lot before they sort of realize this is sort of a limited card.
Yeah, but it's a fine tool. I'd be a little surprised if it doesn't see any play whatsoever, but I think it'll be a minute.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got? Fusion of Souls. This card has caused some consternation, but if we're gonna talk about so if we want to talk about spams that do more than nothing, this is a 1/5 3 high block. First form 6+, add a character from your discard pile to your hand, and then deadlock E-flip, tap your opponent's face. So the consternation is if you read the LGR carefully, there's kind of a problem where a lot of things say play an ability. What they really mean is kind of attempt an ability. So if your first form is the first form you played, if you do not actually play the ability, you haven't played your first form yet, so you can, with the close reading of the rules, do that again in problems. So they're going to fix that. That's not going to happen.
They're going to fix that. It was a problem for like 4 hours.
Yeah.
Can I just shout out a little bit here? I like the chains, the foundation outlines here.
Shit.
Look at them. Look at that. On the top next to the name, you got like the bloody knife edge there.
Jesus.
It's really cool.
Is that going to be on all of his cards? Is this going to be?
I think it's just been all the foundation set.
Oh. No, you're right. Yeah. That's just the Mortal Kombat. That's the Mortal Kombat foundation border.
Yeah.
Wow, that's neat.
Yeah.
Jeez. There's like a bone at the bottom, man.
Yeah. So
some metal.
On the card itself, on its face, obviously the first form is sort of limited to a couple scant characters that are going to both want to be running characters and want them in their hand.
So how much do you put
maybe some meta 9s?
Yeah, how much value is there in 50% chance, commit 1 foundation, draw a +0 mid, and 15% chance, 0 cost, draw +0 mid? I think that's good, honestly.
Yeah, but is it going to change? I guess we'll see. I assume somebody will try it, but I don't know if it's going to change the trend of people don't just put character blocks in their deck just because. But maybe if you're playing an ally theme, right? Maybe you're not at a 9, you're not Ermac, but you're playing sort of that lineup like that Runica was. Maybe this makes you think about tossing a couple character blocks in there.
Yeah, I think it's an underserved kind of resource in the current metagame. I think there's a lot of really good cards that kind of support it or enable it, like Iron Grid and Section 13 Experiment, I think, is the Puro card that just sacks to put a +0 in your hand. As we were talking about Humanity Century, it's the same thing, only it's a much better block in exchange for being a more expensive card and costing decks. Anyway.
The lucky on it.
Pretty good.
Speaking of Asimov and Katarina, this is good against that deck.
It's good. I think it's every Bebop character has good abilities on their face, right? Shutting them down is
it's just a matter of if you're sort of part of trying to evaluate this card is trying to figure out, would you play it as a 1 or 2 of in your main or side just for the high block and the deadlocky with no real expectation of using the form. I think there's some sideboard potential there for the right metagame. If there are more decks that sort of want to go late and leverage a character ability.
Just main deck your weird spams. So often 2 spam, your spams are fungible, right? It doesn't, in your opening hand you want to have 1 spam. At least you have 1 spam and not really have 2 spam necessarily. Unless you have if your deck has really good spams or it's built around them somehow, Finding What Was Lost is a great example, or Fueling Up, or really potent cards or really great in your strategy. Maybe you don't have room for this, but if you're kind of playing whatever spams, just turn some of those whatever spams into a hoser piece.
Random Fusion of Souls, random. Yeah. I know I think I've had some Earth decks where I was like, well, I need more spam. Nothing really stands out. Here's a world unprepared.
Yeah.
Might never matter. Might do something. And this is kind of in that vein. I think this will see some one-off play. in that sort of use case. And some sideboard play if the way things shake out, somehow late game reptile decks become a thing or something, and then they're not as aggressive as people think they're going to be. This would, certainly help against that sort of deck.
All right, so I think that you said that quarter after 9 was about your limit, and that is currently the time. I just scrolled back real quick, and yeah, thanks, Magoo on our chat pointed out that the actions have a sick ice border. The attacks have a cool little fire effect in the border of the text box in the.
I'm good until I say I'm not.
Okay, sure.
We're waiting for somebody to get back from work, and that depends on traffic. And
all right, cool. So let's keep moving on.
Yeah,
Sharpshooter. You shouted this out earlier. So this is a 3/4 foundation with a free enhance. Also a 2 mid block, which is nice to have on your high difficulty cards like this.
Yep.
And free enhance, your low attack gets a speed, a damage, and powerful too. And if you're in deadlock, it commits to lock down the speed of your attack, lock down speed so that it cannot be reduced by effects, and then also give +4 speed. Nice.
Yes. Right? So if you've poked around, it was one of the things that I know I sort of noticed when I was trying to look at things for teams, right? Because I knew that at the very least I had a singles deck for Worlds. It was sort of the idea, what can low spam decks do right now? And ultimately, Miles had a great answer for that with that Vicious deck. But one of the things you see when you're looking around there's sort of a noticeable shortage of damage and just raw punch. And to some extent, if you're trying to put one of these decks together, you sort of feel like you don't really have use for momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And now on 3 of those symbols, you have a pretty good answer that helps with both of those problems in Sharpshooter.
Yeah, I love the powerful keyword, and this is, this is a great use of the powerful keyword. All of your attacks getting powerful means that kind of you can poke early game, and then late game your opponent never knows where in the string it's going to land, or if you you get a lot. You end up getting a lot of plays if you have 3 momentum. You can powerful 2 on your first attack, and if your opponent's just going to say, "Well, I'm afraid of what you have to follow this up. I'm going to play tight defense. I'm just going to let this one through because it's not killing me yet." You just got 2 damage for 0 cost. So you're going to ready that foundation, or you're going to get that momentum back at the end of the turn.
Yep, and that Deadlocky is going to be more potent than some of the other Deadlockies we've seen. +4 speed. Obviously, you'd want to put that on sort of a must block attack. Imagine Power Stone with +4 speed, and then Asimov and Katarina just ready this thing anyway. Making your opponent commit 4 of those 11 foundations is pretty good progress. And if it's spike 1, now it's 6 more foundations if he really has to block it.
Yep, and there's nothing saying you can't stack up several of these and have.
Yeah.
I think the importance, there's kind of 2 speed pumps just are just conditional stun in a certain way of looking at it, and until they reach a point where your opponent can't pass their check anymore, and then you stack them up and you become unblockable. And this card is really telling you, hey, +5 speed is enough that you can okay, you're gonna check a 5 or a 6. You're gonna have the best block that I think you have. And it's not going to be enough to save you. This card exists to close out games. I think that's what Deadlock keyword is really meant to be doing, and this card doesn't. I love how this card achieves that.
Yeah. It'll either if it doesn't close out the game with the current attack, it can probably make your opponent commit enough stuff that you can close out the game with your next attacks.
Yeah, it's cool design.
Yeah.
What do we got next? We got Shokan Stomp. Excuse me. Oh Jesus! Yeah, this is a no block attack, 5 speed, 5 difficulty, 3 control, only a 1 speed high for 4. But it does have kick and slam and stun 3. So that 1 speed is kind of a fake 1 speed. If you block, basically saying, hey, yeah, you can have a +3 blocking assist, you can have whatever. You're still going to lose a bunch of your board. And its abilities, it cannot leave your card pool due to your opponent's effects. So Swordfish, that kind of stuff, ineffective completely. And if your print hand size is less than your opponent, you can flip a foundation to draw a card.
Yeah, I'm down on this card.
Not a fan?
To be blunt, I think you can get. I'm being a little presumptuous here, but between what's out there now and presumably the rest of Mortal Kombat, you can get stun 2 with much better stats.
Yeah. Yeah, like
I don't think the extra stun.
Yeah, if we look at ISP execution, right? It's a 3-speed mid, but it's got 2 of the same stun.
And 3 more damage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's pretty small.
You know,
things for a no block attack too. It's gonna be hard to make room for this card, I think.
Yeah, and you want to say like, oh well, maybe it's sort of a Goro only thing because the no block doesn't really matter for him because it's not in his hand if he doesn't want it in his hand.
Yeah, and it gives flipping foundations is actively positive for him in some cases.
Yeah, but it's sort of like if you're a 4 hand size, is your game plan really going to be stun them until they can't block anymore? I mean, I guess it could be. It's certainly 1 high 8 for him, but I have a feeling that this is a nice card as a standalone spoiler. But I think when people are sitting down and building decks, this isn't going to make very many cuts.
Yeah, I think the other way, the way it could is if Kick Slam or Stun Tribal matters. But I know my favorite Slam card, and I think they're like actively aware of this and just want to hurt me. All these like I just want 4 difficulty slams so I can transform for them. Because that was my favorite card in the whole universe. just no fun for you. Like they're finally rotating card handed, and I'm sure they're gonna make a new one that's even worse for transform. But next up, we got Shokan Prince. Goro spoilers. This is a very interesting kind of. It's like almost a puzzle in and of itself. So exactly how do you want to play this? It's a 3/5 no block foundation. I'm going to be distracted by these chains though every time I look at them. Cannot be destroyed by opponent's effects, and while it's ready, if your printed hand size is less than your opponent's, all non-foundation cards get +1 difficulty. Yours and your opponent's.
So this is almost certainly a Goro staple.
Absolutely,
because you're probably not playing more than 1 non-foundation. We can assume that a lot of Goro decks are just sort of going to play a toss and then build 1 or 2 and then maybe have a block that's really good. Yeah. So you care if like your 4 difficulty toss has +1 difficulty, your foundations commit for 2 anyway. And then when you don't want, if it's actually a problem, you just flip the thing.
Yeah, and having the ability to just commit this to pass control checks if your control checks are a problem and just turn it off, that's very convenient.
Yeah. On the flip side, your opponent can answer it in a similar way. They can stun it out. You probably can't count on this card as like a core defensive game plan, but if your deck doesn't care, Johnny Cage can just commit it if it's bothering him.
So I'm really excited about Johnny Cage with this card because Johnny Cage can just fish this up whenever you're attacking him, and that can be so. Looking at a board of 3 of these in play sounds terrifying.
Yes. Yeah, I was gonna get to Johnny Cage. That's probably the other place we'll see it a lot. Your hand size does have to be less than the opponent. I can't imagine a planet where you put this in a 6 hand size unless it's sideboarded because you really are worried about Devora or something.
I can imagine, like a Mega Man playing this as an alpha male target as much as anything else. Like you play Hanya, you play this. That's really kind of your defensive. Your defensive game plan is to shut down their ability to pass control checks. And this is this adds a whole extra. Every +1 to progressive difficulty adds up very quickly if it pass an attack stream to kill you.
Yeah, narrow card, but it's going to be relevant. If your deck, if you're getting a little too crazy with your Tomahawk Man or whatever, and your deck's going to have problems with this card, you might want to give some thought to whether or not you really want to go that crazy with your Tomahawk Man.
Yeah, and not actually, I mentioned Hanya. I hadn't thought of that analogy yet before, but like this is the same 3 difficulty. But now it's a foundation with a resource, and it's also active on your opponent's first attack every turn, in exchange for that printed hand size restriction, which is pretty big, to be fair. But this is really powerful for shutting down 7 hand size aggro. And a deck actually like Mad Perot, which is playing a bunch of 5 difficulty attacks, might have a really hard time beating this.
All the big shots get +1 difficulty.
Jesus. All right, let's move on before I crap my pants anymore. Quick Burst. This is an interesting one. So this is a 3 difficulty, 3 control attack, 0 high block, which is great. Three speed mid for 2, charge punch attack. So there's probably some kind of deck that's going to play this just for that combination of keywords. And it gets as an enhance on its own ability, it gets stun X, where X is 8 minus your printed hand size. So if you're a 6, it's stun 2. If you're a 5, it's stun 3. If you're Goro, I don't think it changes your character. If
you're a 7, you're not running it. That's fine.
If you're a 7 and you really want a 2 damage charge punch or attack that has a +1 high block.
Yeah. The this is and I'll bring this card up again later too. I think of Diamond Breath, where Diamond Breath sort of middle late in its lifetime had never really seen play. And then I believe it was Keenan put some in a Gemini Man deck, and it had a tricky static on it, but it was mostly used for, and I think Kevin, you played this deck some too. It was mostly just like easy momentum, like you play it, and your opponent's not going to block it because it's 2 damage, and it's fast.
Did manage to pick up brought up Diamond Breath for the audience. I actually managed to pick up a win in the PTC right after I Luxac you out of top 8. I actually beat Matt Hughes because he revoked with Diamond Breath on board while I was playing.
Yeah, it had a little bit more going for it than maybe this does, but this is similar.
But you played it because it's super duper fast and it's mid. It's annoying, but mostly it's mid, and it can wear a give up yet response really nicely. It gets in there and sets you up for all of your momentum sinks later.
Yeah, and I was thinking about when I first saw this card, I was kind of down for this sort of same thing as with Stomp. Like if you're a 5 hand size, is your plan really to stun them out? But at the same time, Jackie, first of all, she is happy to have some momentum to pay for her powerful stuff. And if she leads with this, she stuns them 3. They don't know if there's a follow-up coming or not. If there is a follow-up, it could be freaking massive because it's Jackie.
Yeah,
and you might just take it. You might just get a free momentum out of it.
Yeah, it could have more stun and be a lot faster than 3 speed. And I can get behind that. It does feel like
it's going to be high block, so it's good on her blind draws.
Yeah, and does she have water naturally? Is that on her character too?
I believe so. Yeah, and you can Gateway Shuffle it if you want. I mean,
whoa. Yeah, hey. I was thinking of this with Breaker earlier as well. Or not Breaker, Brutality, aka Breaker 3, the card name. That there's a nice card, Fulfilled in Battle, which is getting some good love from all these super cheap attacks with fantastic blocks that are also. I mean, my problem with Fulfilled in Battle was always that if you're like blocking with Wing Slash or something, that's just not a high impact card to put in your hand at the start of your turn. Sure, it's in your deck, but you're not excited to block with it and then pull it back.
Yeah.
Or like people played it with Leaf Shield. It's like, okay, sure, you're gonna block my one, like my deck that plays 1 throw a turn is gonna be really sad when you do that. But my actually good deck will have a way to beat that.
And this card that I like actually does something on your turn.
Yeah.
And again for Jackie, I don't think this is a 4-of, but if you're doing your thing, you got your gigantic attack and like your opponent, it's your big 6 difficulty or 5 difficulty, whatever, and your opponent blocks it. They're kind of low on foundations. Pass this on a 5, give it +6 damage, and now it's a real attack. Right? It's a 3 mid 8 stun 3 that you can just tack onto the end of a string.
Yeah, God, I forgot what Jackie did, and I forgot that she has powerful 6 to everything.
Yes.
And I'm now deeply in love because powerful is my favorite keyword in the game. So 10 out of 10 will start 4 of this in some deck someday.
Yeah, because it's too bad Jackie gets dumped on by some of the other cards that were spoiled, but
just 3 difficulty powerful 6, like that is big. That is actually bigger than Cats.
It's pretty large.
All right.
Okay, it's the other Diamond Breath.
So this is another 3/3/3/3/3 card, although with less than
0 mid breaker 1.
Yes. Whoa, yeah. Now you put it that way. But it's a 3 difficulty, 3 control, 3 speed in for 3. Okay, the block modifier. So it effectively is plus. It gets +1 speed for the difficulty on the highest difficulty card in your staging area. So if you have a 2 diff, it's all. This is basically always going to be a.
Always at least 2.
Yeah, basically always 5 speed mid for 3.
Sometimes 6. Yeah.
Sometimes 6. Sometimes 8 if you're actually playing Unholy Prophecy.
I mean, Johnny's gonna have something
with Johnny. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of Diamond Breath, here's your nice block 5 speed mid. You want momentum. This is probably going to get you some momentum. Shares 2 with Jet. This is a very interesting card for Jet. He likes momentum. He can make it breaker 3.
Yeah, and he likes just beefy, cheap ass attacks. This might I don't know. I have a hard time. Maybe he wants just a speedy move that has an even better block modifier and breaker. But it's an option to orient your jet in a different direction. But I think that like Black Dog's aim is just so good in him, and like cards like Focus Charge just fits so well in the offense plan.
It's I'm not sure. My jet is built off of Earth. I'm not sure if this ultimately would get in or not, but boy, am I going to think about it.
Yeah, and I know
could certainly join the 1-up brigade. That's for sure.
In our chat, we have the esteemed General Reaction, who is probably very, very excited about playing this card with Gateway Shuffle in his Sniper Joe deck. Because this is ranged, it can wear a shuffle, and it's not going to be the biggest attack in the world, but it's super, super fast. So yeah, I think this is a nice card. I think that this card, we've dumped on a few cards is like probably going to be left on the cutting room floor. This card is a common that I think we'll see play at all levels of the game.
Yeah. This card will be showing up, and it won't be super sad. It's not going to be the first thing like, oh, this deck has Speedball in it. But there's going to be some Speedballs and some decks, and they're going to do some work.
Yeah, for sure. And I like kind of the flavor of you. It kind of gets faster as your stuff. I don't know. It's a nice. It feels like a speedy ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. So since there's some technical difficulties and Tim can't see my face, I clicked to the next card, Most Trusted Assassin, and it's my facial expression has been my reaction to Most Trusted Assassin's card's spectacular.
This is the best card that's been spoiled.
So let's talk about. It's debatable. We talked about spams that don't do nothing. This is a 0 difficulty card with a great control check. Perfect control check 5, 3 mid block, completely doing good work. First form, just for completely free. Your opponent shows you a card in their hand at random, and then once per turn you pay a life, and if your opponent chooses to attack you again, this basically adds up to stun 1.
Yeah, and you're allowed to block the current attack, unlike Journey West, which people play a lot, which is 2 difficulty, and like it's +2
once per use per game,
once forever.
And has a heavy restriction. Your opponent now knows you're not going to block. This is literally you pay 1 life, you take down from 5% of your starting resources or less to trade for a material resource on the board. Your opponent, if they're attacking you into this, despite this, they're either playing some cheap attacks and checking well, or they're committing their board and opening them up for a backswing in exchange for your 0 difficulty foundation.
Yeah, and it has another ability, and it has first form. May learn something about your opponent's hand.
Yeah, and
that's very good.
Quite good. Yeah, there's a lot of cards that knowing about can completely just showing you I have a Gateway Shuffle, showing you I have a Woodman's Leaf Shield. There are very high impact defensive tricks, and also I mean we're definitely seeing in the set there are a lot of cards that don't have blocks. There are a lot of cards with good abilities that have bad blocks, and knowing he's got a +3 low block in his hand, that helps you math out is my attack going to be unblockable speed, real quick, and then you can play to force your opponent to reveal the rest of the cards in their hand by blocking with them or whatever, and soon you'll have developed perfect information that way.
Yeah, I mean, I just won Worlds largely on the back of reclaiming what's ours, and it wasn't because it hit an action every time, right? Sometimes you just look at your opponent's hand like, okay, I can attack in this exact sequence, and now I know how to maximize my hand in a way where I would have just been guessing before.
So, correct me if I'm wrong here too, but if you play this on your own turn, your opponent's ability to block with for example, Woodman's Leaf Shield is now hindered.
Attack card. Yep. That'll hit blocks too. It's also
Good.
+1 speed with
Fucking
some
Lord.
conditions on it.
So I've been playing a little bit of Vega over the past couple of months. Not so much since Cowboy Bebop came out, but this card seems completely
Yes.
unchained with that character because this is now a way to jump into desperation, which that deck sorely needed, and help do it on command, and also it plays directly with that resource denial strategy. So, whew, this card's nuts.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the 0/5s that people are playing now. I mean, boy, Coffee Samba evil decks that are looking for some zeros so that they can deal with their 1-checks in their deck. Here's another 0 if you just play it. You don't have to play some wacky card that does almost nothing.
Ooh, all right, let's move on before I again completely crap my pants. So speaking of bad blocks, we got Invoking Blood Magic with a +4 mid on a nice 2/5. I hadn't read this card yet. That's the only explanation. So static text for no reason. I don't understand the static text at all. Your opponent must discard one momentum to play abilities that discard any number of your momentum. Sure, okay. And evil symbol, E-remove, reduce speed to 0, only playable if you've lost vitality this turn. Historical precedent, how do you feel by comparison to our old friend Keenan Meadows' Matter of Heads and Tails?
Yeah, I think when I was designing cards and sets for a while, I generally tried not to do things that were sort of transparently answers to other cards. I don't really like these sort of super specific, like, oh, this was obviously printed to deal with this. There were some cards that were very obviously printed to deal with heads and tails. Not a fan.
Okay.
I was not a fan of having to play against that card. Just how good I thought it was.
Yeah. So Matter of Heads Tails. Okay. Not better. I think it's clearly better than this card in exchange for being unique, as it was a response before the block step.
Yeah.
So that's a big upgrade. This is enhanced speed, but reducing speed to 0. There's a lot of times this will be 6+ foundations ready from your staging area, if they don't have Sharpshooter active anyway. It's very rare that this won't be at least 4, right?
I mean, boy, if you're Scorpion and reducing -2 speed is just not enough.
Yeah.
Though this thing protects your from hell momentum. It's certainly very limited. You need to have the evil symbol. You need to be able to lose life. I mean, every evil deck. If it's an evil deck, you can play Most Trusted Assassin.
Tim, if you're trying not to die, you just take a hit.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. If you just
you don't need to enable this card.
Yeah, you don't even need. Yeah, you don't actually have to work that hard.
I think this card.
But yeah, I mean, Champion of Muay Thai was a staple, and this is
okay.
1 point more reduced speed.
I guess when I compare this to Champion of Muay Thai, it was a staple. It wasn't unbeatable. It was merely extremely good.
Yeah.
It had Templar supporting cast, which this card does too. If you want to play it in an EVA deck or something. Oh, that's exciting! Shit. Wow, this guy, man, powerful effect. Okay.
Yeah, we'll be seeing this card a lot. We'll see how much the extra difficulty. I know there's some other 2/5s that have come along that I thought were going to be played a lot that haven't actually been played a lot because you only have so much space in your deck. But
man, I just think that first ability is so bizarre to me.
This not seeing quite at the very least 2 main 2 side kinds of play.
Yeah, and it's really easy for Kotal Khan. I guess this is just a Kotal Khan support because Kotal is really reliant on his momentum. He can just pay 2 life if he's close to the wall and really needs to block here. Cool card. Let's talk about Bowflame. This is a nifty one, I guess. It's a lot. It's got some 4s. This is a kind of a Shield Ram classic card. Ooh, yeah. So this is a 4 difficulty, 3 control, 2 speed high for 4, so it's pretty easy to block. 2 speed high, or 2 plus 2 block modifier, pardon me. Fury range safe, so it's a great poke. And discard the top 4 cards of your deck. If you have discarded an attack this way, Draw a card, and your next check to play a card gets +1.
Build your own Satoshi, I guess.
Yeah. It's kind of a, I don't know, it's in a weird place. I think I like it a lot with Robot Masters. It's a great fit for that. You know, if Shield Ram were still good, this might even bring back Shield Ram to a limited extent. Because you can't just be eating 4 damage hits. You know, you kind of want to block this, especially when your opponent's drawing cards and milling themselves for Punch and Judy. But I think a lot rides on actually hitting attacks with that, and you'll feel really bad when it misses.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you figure, as much as I think decks should be 30 to 33% attacks, a lot of decks are 25 to 28% attacks. And so I don't have the probabilities off the top of my head, but that is not guaranteed if you're running one of those 25% attack decks.
Yeah, if I don't know, so I don't know if this holds. I haven't done the real math, but if you have your deck's a hypergeometric distribution, and so the mean of that is, or when the mean is 1 over 4 draws, that's usually 70%.
Yeah.
So if you have 25% attacks,
I think it's like 75% or something like that.
Yeah. It's and yeah, obviously as you go up from exactly 1/4 of your deck attacks, you know, if you start, you know, if you actually look at your discard pile and say, oh, I've checked more foundations than attacks, improves the odds. But yeah, this can easily miss 1/4 or more of the time.
Yeah, I mean certainly if you are, I mean we'll have to see the rest of Kunjin's stuff. Obviously there's some expectation that he's the one that has the once per game form where you either draw 2 cards or get 2 momentum, I think.
Yes, he sure is. Yeah.
So there's some sort of potential game plan with him, presumably, that involves drawing a boat ton of cards and somehow passing them all. And this probably fits into that somehow.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. It's definitely it's probably not a card that you build a game plan around, but it's a card that might fit into your game plan.
Yeah, this is a really I will not be surprised to see decks that play 4 of this or see this become an archetype staple at 4 of. In the same way that, well, in a way that I was surprised when Steel Resurrection did that. I mean, even just, you know, I think there's a pretty decent amount of Fury support that's floating around out there that gets a lot more. Like having a tool like this is a great filler.
Yeah,
we'll have to see how exactly this turns out in the real world. It's a nice comment though. Okay, this might be actually my favorite card that's spoiled so far, Bicycle Kick. And it's not that it's like the perfect card. It's just that I really love it. It really kind of feels like Bicycle Kick to me. So this is a 4 difficulty 3 control, 4 speed mid for 3, +2 mid block, charge kick combo mid attack. So it's a charge, just like the input for Bicycle Kick and like MK2 was you just hold back. As an enhance, let's leave the combo there for now. But as enhance, add a copy of Bicycle Kick from your discard pile to your momentum. And then combo E on the mid attack combo. Gets multiple X number of cards in your opponent's card pool. So the one thing I don't like about this is that only Liu Kang really gets a real Bicycle Kick. You really need to be Liu Kang to get this popping off to have that multiple. But you know, if they block your ISSP execution, you hold down, yeah, you just hold light kick. That's right. But you're still charging it up with holding the button. Anyway, let me pull up Liu Kang because I do not remember what that guy does. And I imagine
stuffs the card pool.
Yeah, he stuffs the card pool, and he relies on like my big read when he was spoiled, and even now is like, yeah, there's a bunch of shit going on here, and I just don't know what it's gonna look like without support. If he has like more good cards like Bicycle Kick. So Liu Kang is twice per turn after you play a combo attack, you clog their card pool, and then enhance, discard X cards from the top of your deck, and you get a combo attack. Discard this way to your hand, and that's the equal number of cards in their card pool. So the first attack, you clog their pool, you get to look at the top card and you discard that card, whatever. Second attack, you clog the card pool again. Now you Bicycle Kick, get multiple 2. Now you look at your top 2, get more combos. And now if they're blocking, you can start getting 3 and 4 and 5 cards, and hopefully put together a really big attack string to kill Shang Tsung and whoever else.
Yeah, my blunt response to this card is I'm ready to be disappointed by this card the same way I was disappointed by Ring Boomerang.
Yeah, Yep.
It feels very similar. It's kind of got a combo, and like it sounds like oh, it feels like there's more upside than there probably actually is.
So the nice thing about this card compared to Ring
But it
Boomerang
doesn't
is that
fire.
yeah, well, I think its base case is like get a momentum is a very good ability. Like
Yes,
this is a like soaring dance, sky high claw. Like these have been like 4 difficulty, 4 mid for 3, gain a momentum is a totally playable card.
yes.
Before we even start talking about putting in Liu Kang. But you need 4, you need 1 you discover already, so but yeah.
Yeah, it was easier on fire if you're playing some of those soft mill strats.
Yeah, and you know, Puro has access to some of that stuff too. You know, you can certainly be playing Spaceland or whatever. Dig this up with your less parties. Yeah, that's not a good idea. Don't do that. All right. Speaking of not good ideas, don't do that. We have another Mortal Kombat K Black Magic Hex Curse. It's a card with some, you know, you look at From Hell and then you say that's what you get with a 6-3 in this game right now. Here's what you get with a 6-2 attack. This is a 2 mid block, a 4 speed low for 8, charge fury slam. So I don't know what support those keywords have, but I'm sure charge and fury are going to have something good sooner or later. It's got a 6+ response. If your opponent plays an enhanced during the Black Magic Hex Curse attack, they have to destroy Foundation for that 6+. So that's something, I guess. But
sure. Yeah.
The reason you come to this card, the reason you're here, the reason you put this in your deck, is that if you have a character in your discard or remove from game piles that is the same name as your opponent's character, it is unblockable. It's unblockable, and it actually has an enhanced step, and it starts at 8.
And if you want to sideboard with prejudice against somebody, sideboard 4 of these and 4 of whatever that somebody is, and you can put them in trouble.
Yeah. This is kind of they're mechanically implementing diversity in UFS, right?
Right. Yeah. The to like actually put in your deck as like an actual plan. I mean, you could.
I mean, I think like
there are decks where like you're happy to just have a 6/2 4/8, I suppose.
I can totally buy this and just
randomly play characters.
Actually, you just play this straight up in Quan Chi because you have Aaron Black and Spike too. You know, Aaron Black demands lows.
Space on it. People that have spent more time than me thinking about Quan Chi have said that Quan Chi probably has better things to do than to screw around with this card.
Yeah, you're probably. I mean, Quan Chi has some insane shit to do, and yeah. I think
there's certainly some. Ermac is excited about it though. I believe this shares with Ermac.
Yeah, I think do they share? I feel like I don't know. I feel like Death and Evil are just the same symbol sometimes.
Ermac makes it 14.
What does Ermac even do? All right, let's show Ermac to the good people because just like Liu Kang, I just read this character and then just forgot.
He makes it 14 and then draws a card because why
not? All right, yeah. So if you discard exactly the character your opponent's playing, you draw a card. It gets 2 damage for each resource that shares your opponent's starting character. So that's going to be the hot +6s, and then you get to make it unblockable. And also, after you check a character, you can Stone Rain your opponent. So yeah, this almost feels like Ermac support. You know, both sides play really well with Ermac.
Yeah.
Because extra free Stone Rains is nice. This is a wild one. This is a ultra rare that's probably really pretty in foil. Actually, holy crap.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Yeah,
yep.
Ageless and Wise. We have the hot Raiden support. I'm excited. This is a 1/5 too low, and after your opponent plays an ability that causes any number of foundations to leave your staging area, cancel it effects. I think that's novel phrasing, right? Causes something to happen, and I really like that.
Yeah, I think I don't know if we've seen exactly that before, but yeah, it's perfectly functional text. It covers a number of things. I don't know. It doesn't. It's hard to try to think about what that does and doesn't hit right now. Obviously, self-destruct. I guess somersault.
Yeah, like anything that I mean, every kind of Stone Rain out there. You know, like they play the response on Black Magic Curse, but homing missiles I think can get canceled by this. It's because the effect resolution destroys.
So here you are in the bin of spam foundations with +2 off-zone blocks that do more than nothing. Probably 4 of in every writing deck.
Yeah, because Raiden E -3 speed. This gives Raiden a lot of defensive resources,
Yeah.
especially when he's playing at the 6 foundation line.
Yeah.
At that point, he kind of needs it. But you get to use this once, ready it, use it again on the next attack. You can't use it twice in the same hand step, obviously.
All right. I have to hop off. Good timings before I have to talk about Stupid Face.
Force Ball is the next card, Tim.
Cards.
Force Ball is the next card. Well, but I'll ambush you with you.
I don't need to
next
talk
week.
about that guy.
All right. Yeah, if you want to drop off, I can close up.
Yeah, you can finish
the
the last
show.
5 or 6. All right, take care.
All right, sure. Thanks for joining us, Tim. All right, so everybody else, let's see if my stream is completely screwed up. Yeah, let's just turn that off. Oh, Ermac's still up here. Whatever. Okay, here's Aegis and Wise if you wanted to know about that. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Tim had a raid, but apparently that got delayed. It was supposed to be. Jeez, he was supposed to like be off at like 9:15, and now it's almost 10 o'clock. It's gonna be a short show. We had a little schedule, and we just completely overran it. But I think that's fine. I think thanks you all for joining us. Obviously, we're sponsored by Rochester CCG here. I was supposed to pitch something. I think it was you can buy your pre-release kits at Rochester CCG. Pick up a bunch of boxes and all the Mortal Kombat cards you'll ever need from there in one convenient package. It also comes with playmats and I think something else. I'm a terrible spokesman for this crap. And yeah, join us next week. The top deck heroes. We're gonna have the entire freaking gang here, going over not only our kind of the return of Sean O'Brien among others, but we're also going to have the entire character draft crew talking about our picks and how, and if we want to, give you an update after Omaha PTC results. And we're going to be doing midterm grades for Jasco games this year. It's been 6 months or so since the last time we kind of gave an assessment of how Jasco games has been running the game. And I don't know about everyone else, but I feel like Sean might be just as salty as he ever is. So be sure to tune in next week. We'll try to ambush Tim Keefe with some some reptile previews and try to get him riled up over that and see if we can give you an entertaining show with the whole cast next week. Thank you all for joining us, and yeah, I'm going to call it a night here. Take care.